first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out and out lies that were really serious, and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country in Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration do it.
When they stole Trump's first term as president, the people who now claim to protect democracy were actually the ones undermining it the whole time. At the highest levels, they pushed lies that changed U.S. foreign policy and altered the course of Trump's presidency. There needs to be real consequences for this, actual legal accountability for those who spread false information. Hopefully, this administration will finally hold them responsible. When Megyn Kelly turned her attention to Barack Obama, she didn't just lightly criticize him, she broke apart his public image.
There was one presidential daily brief that was about to go to Obama in December of 2016 saying, the Russians, they didn't succeed in interfering in any meaningful way in our election. They did not hack voting machines, and it was going to downplay Russian interference. And then they stopped the presses. Obama interfered and said, hold on. And there was a memo saying, per the president's directive, and they're going in a new direction. Lo and behold, what happened next was we're going to do a new assessment and we're going to see what Russian interference was. Immediately, the media started reporting, it was huge. They interfered in everything. They tried to help.
Bit by bit, she exposed what she saw as a carefully built-up image full of media praise and empty promises. According to her, Obama's so-called legacy was more about looking good than delivering real results. Her take wasn't soft or polite. It was more like tearing down a stage set, revealing what was really behind the curtain. Chances, an inflated ego, and a lot of talk with not enough action. There was one classified intelligence report in December 2016 meant for Obama. It said the Russians hadn't actually managed to interfere in any meaningful way in the election. They didn't hack voting machines.
So while Andy and others are zeroing in on the notion that before they sat with Obama, they were going to tell him no attempts to hack our election infrastructure. And Andy will later argue them later coming out and saying, but lots of attempts to interfere in the election in general and totally to help Donald Trump. He's saying that's apples to oranges.
The report was meant to calm things down, but suddenly, the message changed. Obama stepped in and ordered a new approach. A memo even said it was happening per the president's directive. After that, the intelligence community started talking about major Russian interference, with claims that they helped Trump win. The media jumped on it, and the story blew up overnight. Megyn Kelly would have no shortage of material when talking about Obama. His presidency started off with a lot of hope. Some thought he'd change everything, but over time, that hope started to feel more like a marketing campaign than real change. His leadership...
Remiss if we do not do at least one clip from the Barack Michelle Obama appearance, the podcast, because everybody thinks they're getting a divorce, and let's face it, they probably are. She dragged him onto her show with brother Craig, and the following took place. Here's how it started in SOT 36.
Barack Obama, can you join us on
Come
our
on
set?
out here, brother.
Welcome
man.
to IMO. Look at you.
Wait, you guys?
Instead of transforming politics, often just repeated the same old patterns, but with better speeches and nicer visuals. Take the Affordable Care Act, for example, his big achievement. On paper, it promised affordable health coverage for everyone. But in practice, it was a mess. People dealt with confusing websites, rising premiums, and penalties, all while being told this was great progress. The healthcare.gov launch was such a disaster it could have passed for a comedy skit, except it cost taxpayers millions of dollars. Even in foreign policy, Obama sold himself as a peace.
Back to that day 10 years ago, what I think binds it together, all these different strands, case upholding healthcare, a case declaring same-sex marriage part of our constitutional protections, of mourning. I think what pulls it all together is that no one person did any of that.
So he's sitting around on a June Thursday thinking about himself and his glory days.
Seeker who preferred diplomacy over war. But under his watch, drone strikes actually increased. Large areas of the Middle East ended up feeling like war zones controlled by remote pilots. The government kept saying these were targeted and precise actions. But in reality, many innocent lives were lost. Meanwhile, Obama spent a lot of time reflecting on his own legacy. For example, in a podcast appearance with his wife, Michelle, and her brother Craig, he looked back proudly at court decisions on healthcare and same-sex marriage. But rather than give credit to the broader movements or the American people, it often felt like he was remembering how great he thought his presidency was.
That other lie got pushed out there by Brennan at Obama's direction, and we're seeing what Brennan used to push the lie. One was Steele dossier, which this points out as it fell apart, and the guy went to him, CIA analyst, to say, it's fallen apart. We can't use this. He said, yes, but doesn't it ring?
Obama's time in office began with a lot of big promises and historic energy, but for many, what followed didn't live up to the hype. The words were smooth, the image was strong, but the actual results at home and abroad often told a different story. Surgical military operations often sounded clean and precise, but in reality, they were messy, especially for the civilians caught in the middle. Megyn would often point out how strange it was that someone who won a Nobel Peace Prize could also be in charge of military decisions that led to high death tolls, sometimes higher than the leaders he had once criticized. Then there's the issue of lies pushed by people like John Brennan under Obama's direction. For example, the Steele dossier, which was used even after a CIA analyst said it had fallen apart. Brennan still pushed it, saying, yes, but doesn't it? As if hoping it would stick anyway. Obama's handling of Syria didn't help either. He once said that if chemical weapons were used, that would be crossing a red.
If you add it all up, even the year, if the odds were you're going to be married to your partner for 50 years and 10 of those years could be bad, you'd
sign up for it.
You'd sign up for it.
You'd sign up for
it.
Right.
And that's really how it works out.
Is it, Michelle? It's not. I've been married for 17 and a half years, and not one was bad. I think she and he married the
line. But when it happened, nothing really changed. The message it sent was that America's word could be bent or ignored. It confused allies and encouraged enemies. Meanwhile, Russia took over Crimea, and the Obama administration answered with weak sanctions that didn't scare anyone. At home, Obama's economic record depends on who you ask. Supporters saw a slow recovery from the 2008 crash. Critics saw rising debt, flat wages, and the Federal Reserve printing money as if it were a game. Ironically, the man who promised to unite the country may have actually helped lead us into a more divided time. There's a moment in the conversation where someone says, if you knew 10 out of 50 years in marriage would be rough, you'd still go for it. It's meant to suggest that some rough years are just part of the deal. But then someone jokes they've been married for over 17 years without a single bad one. Then there's the surveillance issue. You'd think a former constitutional lawyer like Obama would be cautious about expanding.
Point that he was determined to help Trump and get Trump elected was a political hit job that they then leaked to the media immediately, as you pointed out the other day, that before the homework assignment was even completed. In other words, Obama said, go back and change your report. They had leaked to the media what the conclusion of it would be. They had one goal and one goal only, which was to undermine Trump.
Government spying. Instead, the NSA became more powerful under his watch. When Edward Snowden revealed just how much data the government was collecting on Americans, people were shocked. Obama, who talked about transparency, ended up running one of the most secretive administrations in decades, even going after whistleblowers, more aggressively than some past presidents. And let's not ignore the fact that Obama liked being in the spotlight. TV shows, viral videos, NCAA brackets. Megyn joked that he seemed more comfortable making fun of his political opponents at dinner parties than actually working out deals in Congress. Behind the scenes, Obama and his team were focused on stopping Trump. They leaked details about political investigations before the reports were even finalized. They had one goal: undermine Trump. Obama even told people to go back and change your report, then leaked the outcome to the media before the final work was done. Even his most praised diplomatic efforts had problems. The Iran nuclear deal was called a success, but critics said it only delayed bigger issues. It helped Iran look more legitimate without fixing deeper concerns. The improved relations with Cuba looked great in pictures.
He decided to drop a post on X today, and I thought, okay, maybe in the wake of the Pete Hegseth presser, he's going to say something like, no matter how you feel about the Iranian strike, hats off to our, boys in blue, our guys in the bombers. He went a different way. This is what it was.
I'm curious how you're thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
I didn't even want to talk. I was so mad. Part of the reason I think I ended up having anything to say at that moment was when I heard some of the victims' families forgive the shooter. And I thought, all right, let's see if maybe this is a way America.
But left people asking what the U.S. got in return. Like many things under Obama, the words and images looked great, but the actual results didn't always match. He was great at speeches, but not always great at making real change. Both supporters and critics often felt unheard, and the media treated him differently than other presidents. Scandals like the IRS targeting conservatives, the VA hospital crisis, and Benghazi were all major stories, but they didn't seem to stick to Obama the way they would have to someone else. Today, Obama posted on X, formerly Twitter. Some people thought he might make a serious comment about a recent strike on Iran, maybe say something in support of the troops involved. Instead, he went a completely different direction, which, again, shows how he often focused more on controlling the narrative than directly addressing big events. Sure, here's the rewritten version in simple, clear English without buzzwords or fancy language.
A meeting was held. It was called and held, including all of Obama's top people, all of them. And they had a big meeting on this, and the next day, things changed dramatically on the Russia narrative, and changed in a way that would support the Russia allegations that would go on to undermine the entire first
language. There were a lot of tensions in the air, and at one point, I was so angry I didn't even want to speak. The only reason I ended up saying something was because I heard some of the victims' families forgive the shooter. That made me pause and think maybe there's still hope for the country. Obama was great at avoiding blame. If someone asked a tough question, he could quickly change the subject with a funny story or an inspiring line. But by the time he left office, it was clear that his speeches didn't always match the reality. He had promised to bring people together, but the country ended up even more divided. Supporters remember the hope and the history he represented. Critics remember the promises that weren't kept and the mixed results. His presidency felt more like a carefully planned performance than actual leadership. He kept people watching, even when things weren't going well. And when it was over, he walked off stage like it had all been a success, though many people were still confused by what had actually happened. Behind the scenes, there was a key meeting with all his...
Maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas' relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, it's the basketball team. What's it called? I can't remember the name. The Clippers, thank you. Game without her. And the LA Clippers. And then with Steve Ballmer, who's the owner, who he's been on this show. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with his both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no Michelle.
Top people. After that meeting, the story about Russia changed suddenly and in a way that helped fuel the long-running Russia collusion claims that haunted Trump's first term. It seemed like a setup. In the end, Obama's legacy is full of contradictions. He got people excited about big change, but mostly delivered small steps. He promised unity, but left behind deeper divisions. He spoke out against endless wars, but didn't stop them. His story needs more than praise, it needs to be looked at honestly. And there's still a lot to talk about. Since leaving office, he's focused less on serious leadership and more on maintaining his image. Every time he speaks, it feels like he's trying to sell a message rather than solve problems. He acts like the world is waiting for his next big move, but usually, it's just another well-practiced speech made to sound important. There are even rumors about trouble in his marriage. People noticed he and Michelle haven't been seen together much. On
the record, they can pretend all they want that it's just tabloid fodder that has led people to think they're on the outs. That oh yes, he appeared without her, here or there, and people, no. Okay, first of all, she didn't go to the Trump inauguration. She didn't go to the Jimmy Carter funeral. He's been spotted out at basketball games and out to dinner with their daughters repeatedly without her. You'd be hard-pressed to find a...
Valentine's Day, they posted carefully worded messages online, but then he was seen at a Clippers basketball game alone and later out to dinner with their daughters again, without Michelle. It's gotten to the point where recent photos of them together are rare. His public image is so polished now that it doesn't feel real anymore. He doesn't come across as a former leader reflecting on tough choices, more like a celebrity. Promoting a lifestyle, he knows how to use buzzwords and big feelings, add a nice background, and keep people watching. It's more like an influencer's playbook than a